Hey boys, welcome back to some more NRL Supercoach season 2021 discussions here, and we're going to be going through the Parramatta Eels and I don't know the other team, but we'll start with the Parramatta Eels and the dummy half department. Not a whole lot here. I mean, Reed Marnie is like your safest houses. You know, as you can see, average 54, still decent, but yeah, just a very sort of underwhelming hooking option. Other than his sort of debut season where he's a really nice cheapie, just not much else. Like, he's very solid in defense, but doesn't really offer too much more in attack. He gets the odd try assist here and there, but yeah, definitely not one of the premium options you want to be looking at. And yeah, not much. I mean, Joey Lussick, I think, is a good young player, but yeah, Reed Marnie's definitely got that spot on lockdown. The front rowers, Oregon Kaufusi, bit of a cheap option here. Good young player. Minutes. I mean, he'll probably get a bench spot at the Eels, I would expect. But yeah, you probably, I mean, potentially he might get a few more minutes, but the Eels pack is very, very minute heavy. Like, a lot of their forwards, Junior Paulo, as you can see here, yeah, Paulo, Campbell, Gillard, Nathan Brown, Madison, like, they play big minutes, especially, yeah, Madison and their other back rowers, but even the front rowers, Paulo plays huge minutes, so yeah, picking like a bench forward for the Eels is probably a little bit, yeah, not the wisest idea. Isaiah Papali'i has gone over from the Warriors. A pretty good signing. I mean, he was a very good talent coming through. He sort of dropped off at the Warriors the last couple of seasons, but I don't know where I don't know if he's going to get a back row spot. Maybe on the bench, but again, he's priced pretty high. He definitely, I mean, he had the potential to be one of the really good back rowers in Supercoach, but yeah, just sort of faded away at the Warriors and at the Eels. I'm not really expecting too much more from Papali'i. Reagan, Campbell, Gillard. He had a couple of barns. I mean, he's a guy that can that can have these absolute barnstorming games. He did it a couple of times last year, played extremely well and played huge minutes. But overall, for 500k, I think again that there's better options than Campbell, Gillard, and Junior Paulo. He is a very interesting prospect. It's tempting. I'm not going to lie, it's tempting. I'm still worried. Like, he can play big minutes, but like I was saying, with their forward pack and even like the recruiting of like Hipgrave and Papali'i now, like, I don't know, maybe they will get a few less minutes out of Paulo, using more as impact. I'm not too sure, but for 570k, he averaged mid-60s. Like, it's a good pickup in the front row. Like, there's a lot of good front row options, dude. And I definitely couldn't fault you for going Junior Paulo. I think it's a good pickup. I probably won't. Well, I definitely won't go Paulo, but he's a good pickup for sure. The back row department. So, Bryce Cartwright, new recruit. He's actually, yeah, he broke his jaw, so he's out anyway. But wouldn't be getting Bryce Cartwright. Murata Niokore, he's suspended. Don't know when he got suspended, but I would have thought, I don't know, if he wasn't suspended, maybe he would have got that other back row spot. Actually, no, what am I talking about? Sean Lane, obviously, and Ryan Madison. I forgot about Sean Lane. I knew Madison, but yeah, Sean Lane is going to get that other spot. I thought for a moment Niokore, but very good player. I mean, Niokore could at most other clubs he would start for sure, but I mean, the Eels have a stacked forward pack, and that's one of the reasons. I mean, Nathan Brown, he's, again, very tempting. He's actually only a second row forward this year. He's generally been a front row and second row, I'm pretty sure, in previous years. I'm positive. So he's been a decent pickup in the front row, but in the back row, I mean, again, he's definitely going to be their starting lock, and he has the impact, he has the work rate, and he can play huge minutes. But yeah, Niokore, Papali'i, Hipgrave, Ray Stone, like they got so many forward options that I can't see Brown playing huge minutes. Like they have to rotate them, surely. So yeah, Nathan Brown's always been one of those guys that I'd love to put in, but just the minutes are always a little bit iffy. But geez, he's a good player. Sean Lane, I mean, again, he's cheap at 528. Definitely not expensive, and he's got the attacking upside, but he just doesn't have the work rate. Like Sean Lane, I went him not last year, I think a couple of years ago when he was a bit cheaper, and he was like. I just got frustrated watching him, because he could pull out these 70-80 point games, and then the next week no attacking stats, and his points would be way down, because he doesn't have the work rate of a Ryan Madison, and Ryan Madison is definitely a premium second row option. At the moment I don't have him in my team. And it's sort of, I've got Crichton and Tamalolo, but that could definitely switch. I mean, Madison, I think I said in the last video that I think Tamalolo, Crichton, and Madison are your top 3 back row options to start the year. And I mean, if you have the money, I think going 3 is good, but at the moment I don't have Madison. But yeah, he's got the work rate. I mean, he makes plenty of tackles, plenty of runs. And then he's also got that attacking upside. He can sneak over for a try. So yeah, Madison, definitely one of your top priorities if you don't have a couple other gun back rowers. And then, not too much else in terms of like cheapies at the Eels. Again, they just got such a stacked forward pack that even like a Ray Stone, I actually love him as a player. I think he's a very, very good player. I think he comes on more as dummy half occasionally. I'm probably actually in the back row, but he's a good player. But yeah, just the minutes aren't going to be on offer for him. Then we move on over to the halfback. So Mitchell Moses. Oh man. So as you can see, I do have him in my team at the moment. It's gonna be a gamble if I do end up going Moses, obviously, because everyone is going, well, not everyone, but a lot of people are going Cleary, and Cleary, I do expect Cleary to be the top halfback in the comp at the end of the season again, in terms of points, but I'm just like, at the moment, I'm like, I can save, what is Cleary, like high 7s, so I'm saving probably almost 200k that I can spend elsewhere, and Moses, I feel like the Eels are going to start well. I feel like Moses is going to start well, and he might drop off, or he might start terribly. I have no idea. But I don't know. I just have this feeling that Moses and the Eels are going to start with a bit of a bang. And, he can score as well as anyone. I mean, Moses, when the Eels are flying, I mean, he's kicking goals, he's setting tries up. I just sort of near the Eels to fire, and Moses will be an absolute steal at 480k. So yeah, it's a risk, and we got 3 weeks to sort of play around with the team and see what else is on offer. But at the moment, I've got Moses, and we'll see what happens before the lockout, dude. We'll see if I stick with the guns there and stick with Moses. But I think he's a good pickup. I think he's a good pickup at that price. And then the 5'8", so the big one here, Dylan Brown. He's starting at expensive. 564, but he absolutely killed it last year. Average of tick over 60, and he was the main man. Honestly, Moses, and that's the other reason, so just quickly on Moses, that's sort of the other reason I'm going Moses at the moment, is because Moses averaged like low 50s, but he didn't have a very good year. Like, Moses didn't get many try assists. Like, he just, I don't know, in my opinion, he didn't have a great year. And Dylan Brown, he was the man that carried that Eels attack. Like, he was the one, every time he touched it, he looked dangerous. He took the line on. Very honestly, Dylan Brown reminds me of Cameron Munster quite a bit. Obviously not at the level of Munster at the moment, but just the way he plays, like, he's a bit off the cusp. He runs it a lot. Very strong for his size, good footwork, and yeah, I mean, at 3% ownership, he's a absolute pod. I could see the gamble of going Dylan Brown as well, but in my opinion, it's just a little bit too risky. Just the fact that he doesn't kick goals, and I just feel like compared to like Munster, he doesn't quite have the consistency. He might, I mean, this year will sort of be the linchpin, because, you know, it was last year a bit of an anomaly. I don't know. I still think he'll average well, but is he going to average over 60 again? Maybe he'll average more, but I don't know. I can you know, I could respect the punt on him. I do think, in my opinion at the moment, I think, you know, I can get going with both of the best half and 5'8" combo, like going Cleary and Munster or Cleary and Walker. But in my opinion, I'm sort of leaning towards going one of them. So at the moment, I'm going Munster and then taking a punt on the half. Or if you wanted to go Cleary and then taking a punt on like Dylan Brown, I think that's a pretty good option, you know, just to mix it up a little bit. But in saying that, it might be a better idea just to go with the pack and go with the best. But I don't know. I'm sort of on board with sort of having a gamble on one of the half spots, because you don't know who's gonna really fire, and there's always one or a couple of the half and 5'8" combo that just turn it on. You know, they just have a great year. So Dylan Brown, and like I said, I think the Eels will start well. So Dylan Brown is not a bad option. Who are they? They're versus the Broncos as well. That's sort of another thing to keep in mind. They're taking on the Broncos, who, yeah, they who knows? I mean, the Broncos could be a different team than last year, but I wouldn't expect them to, you know, defend overly well. Let's put it that way. Moving on to the center wings. So there's a bit of interest here. So there's quite a few cheapy potentials. Michael Oldfield, I think, could get a spot there, because Michael Jennings is suspended. Yeah, he's gone. I can't even remember what happened. He got was it drugs, dude? I don't even remember what happened. Jennings, he did something. He did something, dude. So he's gone at the moment. I don't know if he's going to be back. So Wanga Blake is definitely getting a spot, and then it's sort of, I think, well, I don't know, Hayes Dunster, Michael Oldfield, I think they're the front runners. It seems like everyone is going Dunster, so he might be tipped to get that spot, and if he does, obviously that's huge, because 173k for a bottom dollar cheapie is very, very handy. But if it's Michael Oldfield, I know, as you can see here, he averaged 14. But Oldfield's actually like a very good Supercoach player. I remember him at the Eel. Who did he play for? The Eels or the Raiders? Not the Eels. I meant the Seagulls or the Raiders. I think he was at was he at both at one point? He sort of moved around a bit, but I know. When he's played like full matches in the centers, like he scored really well. I think the Raiders previously he scored really well. So Michael Oldfield could be a sneaky pickup as well. And at 260, like, it's very cheap. So keep an eye on both these guys if they get that starting center spot. Tom Opicic, I mean, a good player. He's 325. He might get the spot as well. I'm not too sure if he sort of dropped down the pecking order a little bit, or if he's up there. Wanga Blake, Wanga Blake. So he was my sort of smoky last year. I'm like, Wanga Blake. I think he was pretty much this price last year. He was around that 300k. And I thought, this is a bargain. Wanga Blake is an absolute beast. he's way underpriced, but he never really fired. He had the odd game where he scored like 60, 70, but for the most part, yeah, I honestly don't know. So, yeah, definitely not going near Wanga Blake, and he might have a killer year this one, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's just not Supercoach relevant, really. And then we have a couple other big guns here. So Blake Ferguson, he's only 4%. I actually thought he'd be a little bit more popular because, Blake Ferguson, he's been one of the absolute best centre wings. He's always got the base stats, and he just needs to get a few tries. So at the moment I don't have Ferguson, but I could be persuaded to go with Blake. Yeah, he's always going to take those tough carries, and he just needs to get a few tries early on, and he'll get big scores. So at 350, he's definitely undervalued for what he can do. And then Marcus Sevo, he's at 4% as well. A few people are going him. I wouldn't touch Sevo. He's a little bit too expensive. Again, he can have these monster games, but if he was starting like at Ferguson's price, I could definitely see myself going Sevo, but just a little bit too expensive to take a punt on there. And then the fullback department, the main one here, Clint Gutherson, he probably had his best year last year. He was pretty good. I've never... Not to get too much into the Eels players, but I've never really been a huge fan of Gutherson, but he did have a good year last year, and he scored very well, average 70. But you can't go Gutherson over Pappenhausen, Ponga, Tedesco, Turbo. Like I said before, like he can, he scored really well, but I can't see him backing up that year. And I just feel like those other guys just have better upside and better potential. So, yeah, he's 4%. A few people are taking the punt on him, but he's still, again, like he's expensive. Like you can get Pappenhausen and Trebojevic for like similar or less price. I think Pappenhausen's a little bit more expensive, but yeah, I just feel like there's better options at fullback. So that's the Eels. Who have we got? Newcastle, quite a bit doing at Newcastle. We'll, didn't mean to go to the hooking department. So, quite a bit of interest here actually. So, Connor Watson straight away. Obviously, depends, but it seems like he is going to get that starting lock spot. So, in my opinion, he's a absolute lock-in. I'm surprised he's only 23% owned, dude. That is mind-boggling. I can't believe it. The only sort of... again, if he doesn't... Well, I was going to say if he doesn't get picked in the starting side, maybe not, but even if he's on the bench, dude, he can come on and still average like 40+, in my opinion. So, yeah, if he doesn't get picked in the starting side, I might not go him, but in saying that, I still think he could score pretty well off the bench. So, yeah, pending selection, but the only sort of headache is, do you pick him at 5'8" or dummy half as your backup? Because if you pick him at hooker, then you can't pick like Little or Simpkin or a couple other cheap dummy halves. And if you pick him at 5'8", then you can't pick up Matty Moylan or there's a couple other decent cheap 5'8". So that's the only sort of conundrum at the moment. I've got him at 5'8", but yeah, Connor Watson in my mind is almost a must-have. Jaden Braley. So Jaden Braley, he suffered that serious injury early on, so only played the 2 games. He averaged 57, and he's only at 356. So I don't think anyone... 7% ownership, actually. So a few people are going him, but I haven't really heard too many people talking about him. But, if you're going Jacob... At the moment, I've got Jacob Little, who's 247... if you had the extra cash to splurge on Braley, that's a very solid option. And Braley is, I don't think he's not at keeper level. Like, he's not going to be your top echelon dummy half, but he'll definitely, in my mind, if he's fit, I think he'll definitely get up to that like 500k, so he'll make money and score some good points. You can definitely play him as a reserve. So Jaden Braley is actually a sneaky option there, and then Kurt Mann is the other sort of top liner here, and I love Kurt Mann. I think he's a great player. I had him in centre from the get-go last year, and he killed it. Average 64, just didn't miss a beat. But unfortunately this year, he's only at 5'8" and dummy half, not centre. And he's probably going to be on the bench, I think. I actually don't really know how the Knights lineup is going to look, but I can imagine... I don't know. I don't really know where Kurt Mann's going to play. Like, I feel like he's too good a player not to start, but... I don't know. I don't know where he's going to play at the moment. So I think he's a little bit too expensive because he had just a killer year. So, if he starts on the bench, like, he could drop a lot, and then he could be a good pickup later in the year if he gets a start somewhere. So he's one to keep an eye on later in the season. Front row forwards. So there's a little bit here. Suaso Su is at the club. Was he there last year? Dude, there's so many like switches. Where was he playing last year? The Bulldogs? Or was he at the Knights? No, I think he only moved to the Knights this year, right? But I wouldn't be going Sue anyway. Josh King, he's a good young player. I feel like he's been very good for them, but probably, I don't really expect his minutes to rise too much from what he's been doing. Solo, good young player as well, but again, probably not the minutes there. The Saifidi, Daniel Saifidi had just an incredible year last year. Jacob Saifidi played more games, but didn't score as well. But yeah, they're just I think they're... Yeah, I wouldn't be going either of them. David Clemmer as well. Like, I can see the appeal. 13%. He's 600k. So he definitely. But the problem with Clemmer is that I feel like he dropped off a bit last year. He was one of the top. He was at the top of the leaderboard for a long time there as the front rower. But then the offloads stopped. His minutes dropped a bit. So maybe at the start of the year he's a really good pickup because the minutes will be there, and maybe he'll get the offload back. But I don't know. I went off Clemmer a little bit at the end of last year. So I think it's a very safe option to go Clemmer, but I think there's better upside and better options at similar to lower prices than Clemmer this year. Just my opinion there. And then Daniel Saifidi again. I think he had such a good year that I think he's priced a little bit too high for what he can do. But again, he might turn it on again and get even better. Second rowers, I know there's a few decent options here. So Mitch Barnett is probably the real interesting one. So Lachlan Fitzgibbon obviously is out for. Is he out for the season, or he's out for a while anyway, which is bad news because he was actually a decent little option at 460, fairly cheap for a couple of years ago he was averaging around 70 with plenty of tries. Tyson Frizzell, the new recruit, he actually had easily his best year last year in Supercoach, but he's never really done that before, so I wouldn't be jumping on the Frizzell bandwagon. I think it was a little bit of an anomaly for him to average over 60. He's usually around that 50 mark. But Mitch Barnett, it looks like he will get that spot. Well, he'll definitely get the back row spot over Fitzgibbon now that he's out. And he might be kicking goals. Well, especially with Ponga missing, Barnett is actually a pretty good goal kicker. So that is a very, very interesting pickup. If he's kicking goals, playing 80 minutes in the back row, like that's dude, that would be a very nice addition. Again, it's tough to go Barnett just because of the amount of options in the back row, but he's tempting. He's tempting, but I sort of look at it. I'm like, at the moment, I'm like David Fafita or Mitch Barnett, and now I'm sort of like, honestly, maybe Barnett. Maybe Barnett, because I think Fafita has more attacking upside, but Fafita, Barnett definitely has the work rate. And then if he's kicking goals, like that's just the cherry on top, really. So yeah, that's. Oh, I could tempt myself into Barnett. Then we move on to the halfbacks. Really nothing doing here. Mitchell Pearce has never really been Supercoach relevant regardless. So straight on to the 5'8". And again, we talked about Connor Watson. I do have him at 5'8". Tex Hoy, obviously a very good young player. He's pretty high owned, and this is sort of the interesting one. And I guess he's another cheap 5'8" option, because he's going to get the fullback spot when Ponga is out. So I don't know. I mean, people are going Tex Hoy, but if Ponga's only going to miss like the first few weeks, like Tex Hoy's probably going to go back to the bench or just out of the team. If he plays really well, maybe he gets a spot on the wing, but still, I don't know. I don't know. It's not like a huge risk to go Tex Hoy, but because you could even play him at 240k if he's starting at fullback. Very talented and very exciting young player, so he could kill it and score really well for you. But I don't know. Tex Hoy, I feel like he's not going to be in the team for that long, regardless. So. Not too much else. Blake Green, what's he? So Blake, oh yeah, that's right. Blake Green is actually out injured, so maybe Kurt Mann plays 5'8" for the moment. Even though I think Kurt Mann is a better 5'8" than Blake Green anyway. But so I don't know. When Blake Green is fit, does he come straight back into the team for Kurt Mann? Personally, I wouldn't do that, but. I don't know. Blake Green is your more safe 5'8" option, I guess. He's more clinical. But I much prefer Kurt Mann at 5'8", honestly. I think he's very, very solid. But going on to the centre wing, who have we got here? So, Stafford Toa. I think that, yeah, there's a little bit. There's definitely uncertainty with how the backline is going to shape up for the Knights. Bradman Best is definitely going to get a spot, and you would expect Heimel Hunt as well. The only real interest here is Bradman Best and maybe Edric Lee on the wing. But again, I wouldn't be going Edric Lee without Ponga there, because on that left side, Ponga loves to fire it to Edric Lee, and he scores a lot of tries. But without Ponga, I wouldn't be going Edric Lee. And then, yeah, the cheapies, don't think they're really a look in. But yeah, Bradman Best, I mean, he's expensive. He is expensive, but good Lord, he scored some points. And he only played the 10 games. Like, I feel like he is a guy that is going to get better and better. And do you jump on? Like, I feel like it's just a bit too expensive. I don't think I can afford to have him. Well, I definitely can't afford to have him with the team at the moment. I'd have to shuffle it up deluxe. So I think it's a luxury to have Bradman Best. But if you're gonna go with one premium centre wing, I think Bradman Best is definitely a solid option. And he'd be one of my options. I've got Valentine Holmes ahead of him at the moment, but yeah, Best he's an absolute monster. So yeah, not a bad shout at all. And then the fullback department, so we talked about it. Tex Hoy will be playing at fullback while Pong is out. So, I wouldn't be getting Tex Hoy at fullback. I've talked about this, that I think you need 2 gun fullbacks to start the season. But you can pick him up at 5'8". And then Kalen Ponga, obviously he's out for the first few weeks. And yeah, so he's a no-show. But he's expensive. I mean, he had a good year. He averaged 80. He's at 700,000. So, it would have been, dude, I wish Ponga wasn't out for a couple of reasons. Obviously, first, it's great to see Ponga play, and I want him to play as much as possible. But then the second reason, it would have been nice if he was playing, because it would have just made it even more difficult for people to choose their fullback options. Ponga would have been Ponga would have been very high on the ownership if he was playing. But yeah, unfortunately, he's out for the first few weeks. Hopefully only a couple of weeks, not a sustained injury. I know they say 1 to 4, but a shoulder, shoulders, they can just take a little bit longer if you're not feeling it. That 3 weeks you turn into 5, but yeah, hopefully it's only a couple, and hopefully you can come back fully fit, raring to go. But yeah, that's another squad breakdown done and dusted. Hopefully, guys are enjoying the Supercoach content. Make sure to like and comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.